Now, a lot of times you need to create slideshows or work with still images, and to make it more interesting, you often want to put a move, a slight push or a pull or a pan on all of these still images to breathe some life into your program. And this can be very time consuming. So one of the things I like to do is create a bunch of presets that I can use by dragging and dropping them onto still images that just give me slight pushes or slight pans. I can always tweak it afterwards, but at least I can select a whole bunch of different clips in my timeline, usually not adjacent to each other, and I can throw on a push and then select a bunch of other clips and then throw on a pan and then a couple more and do some sort of a pull out. So it's a very quick way to take a lot of slides and animate them. So let's go ahead and look at what's the best method for creating these presets. I have a timeline here with 5 different still images. And one thing you have to take into consideration is when working with still images, they're all different sizes when you get them. So the problem is, if you start creating pushes and pulls, what you're technically doing is scaling. So if you scale a real big image, and then you apply that same scale on a little image, it's going to look different. And as a matter of fact, just to prove my point, I'm going to take these images, and if I step through them, you see in some cases it looks like we're seeing a lot of them. In some cases it's really blown out, and these aren't really the whole image. As a matter of fact, if I switch from fit to 10% and I click on any of these images, I can actually see the bounding box. This image is way bigger. And I go over to here and I select and I double click. It's almost the same size, but it is slightly different. And as I step through each of these, I can see that I'm dealing with images that have different frame sizes. This one's not as big. So what I want to do is I want to scale all these to fit inside the frame of my video. So that's my first step. I'm going to select all of these. I will right-click on it, and I'm going to choose Scale to Frame Size. Now, this is important. You don't want to set to frame size, you want to scale to frame size. And before I do that, I want to select one of the clips in my timeline and show you what happens to the Motion tab when I do each of these. So right now it's at 100% pixel for pixel of its original size. If I right-click on this, and if I choose Set to Frame Size, what happens is it changes the scale. And I don't want that. I want the scale to stay at 100% because I want it to be the same kind of move on all of my photos. So let me undo that, and I'll do that by doing Control or Command Z. And now when I right-click, instead of choosing Set to Frame Size, I choose Scale to Frame Size. What's going to happen is the picture is going to fit exactly into my frame, but the scale will still stay at 100. So as you see, if I go ahead and make this fit in my screen, I see the entire image, and because it's not quite the aspect ratio of a television set, I do have some black bars. We'll attend to that in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and select the rest of these clips and set them all so that they're scaled to fit inside the frame, yet they're still at 100%. So now we see the entire image, and I can start setting up my animation. So the first thing I like to do, in this case is a push in, is even though I just scaled it down, I want to by default scale them up a little bit because it's inevitable that the picture will not be exactly the right aspect ratio. You might have some black bars at the top or black bars at the side. So I'm going to select the photograph. I'm going to go into my Motion tab, and I'm actually going to start with it scaled up. And you have a choice how you want to build these. You can build them so that it's static initially and then the push starts. Or if you want, you can start the move at the very beginning of the clip, and that way when you dissolve or cut to the image, it will start moving. I like to give myself some breathing room because I can always trim the image if I want or extend it. So I don't quite put the move in at the very beginning of the frame. I do it a few seconds in. Now I'm going to scale it up, and I like to scale it up about 10 to 20%, and you can probably get away with this pretty easily because now when I drop this on any image, and I'll type in 120 here, that'll be the easiest way to do that. Now if I drop this on another image, that's going to be blown up and I won't see the bars. So I have my first location, I lock in scale, I lock in position, so we're coming into it full screen, and then I'm going to go a little bit further down the timeline, and all I'm going to do is change the scale. And we'll zoom in a little bit here. And a lot of times I won't put a move here, and you want to be pretty subtle. You don't want really fast moves on your still images. So maybe we'll go from 120 to 140. And the thing is, you can always modify these if you need to. So now I'll play this back and have a nice little slow push in. If I applied this to this next clip, which also has bars, now normally this would be a preset, but I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to simply go ahead and copy it and do a paste attributes. And we see we now have the full image with a little bit of push into the middle. And I will do this with all of my other clips. For instance, I may go over to this clip. Once again, I'll select it. I'll go to the Motion tab. I want to make it a little bit bigger. And in this case, probably a little bit more than bigger because I'm going to do a pan. So I'm going to blow it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's positioned where I want. I'm going to move this over. So I'm going to use this slider here so it's perfectly straight. Lock in position. I'm not going to do any kind of a push on this. I'm just going to move it later down in the timeline on the same clip and grab this slider and just do a little bit of a move from left to right, and I'm good to go. So if I go ahead and I hit play, I have a nice little pan from left to right on an image. Once again, if I wanted to apply this to yet another clip, in this case, I can simply go copy, Control-C, Command-C, select this next clip, and do Control-V, and now I have a nice little pan in Paris. So that's a quick overview of how you can create moves for still images, pushes and pulls and pans. Once you adjust them exactly how you like them, simply right-click on it and save it as a preset, and then you're good to go, and you can easily apply them to a variety of still images in your program, get a nice animated show with a lot less work.